Hi, I'm Andrew Lewandowski, and this is your Better Beer Authority. Recently, I had the pleasure of interviewing Brett Porter, the brewmaster at Goose Island Brewing Company in Chicago, Illinois. Brett has an extensive history in the craft beer business. Before Goose Island, he began his brewing career with internships at England's Bunces Brewery and Holden's Brewery. Coming back to the States, he became the head brewer at both Portland Brewing and Deschutes. We did an online video chat covering all sorts of aspects of the brewery and also what his role is there and the day-to-day of being a brewmaster.
My role here is not to open and close valves. It's to make sure that the recipes are right and the flavor is right leaving the brew house. I brewed a lot of beer in my 26 years as a brewer, and while I miss doing it, I don't have the time to do anything but help solve problems in the brew house. So, and I don't have to do as much of that as I did before either. So my role is advisor, recipe maker, and then approver of the final product. There has to be a happy mixture in my job between being in touch with what's going on and also being able to think away from the constant grind of problems, and that is the there, you can't go to a brewery anywhere in the world and not find niggling day-to-day problems that distract you from a vision you have of where you want to take your brewery. So if you let yourself get wrapped up in day-to-day stuff, and it's hard not to do, to stick your oar in the water, and the other thing is that you do lose some respect from your fellow workers when you're not doing that, but it doesn't serve our brewery as a whole. So
No, I can, yeah. No, and that makes perfect sense. I mean, especially given a lot of the experience that you've had and, you know, what you have the ability to do now, which, I mean, that is completely understandable, which, I mean, that's great. Now, I mean, like I said, you said 26 years, correct?
yep.
Now, I mean, obviously, I'm sure you've, brewed on all sorts of ranges of, systems. I mean, now, do you still yourself or have people that you maybe work with or friends, do you still do anything like, fun, like home brewing, like experimenting or whatnot on occasion? Or is it more really, hey, I'm here, running and working here, overseeing everything, and it really kind of, may not be enough time?
I haven't. My last homebrew was back in Portland, back in probably '98, and
Oh, wow.
it was a very good beer. But I was moving from one apartment to another, and I had all my friends come over, and we ladled it out of my fermenter and drank it on the spot. And that's the last time that I brewed. I have a love for English barley wines, and that is the only style that I would make as a home brewer.
Okay.
I think that we do our best work at a larger scale, and I often encourage our brewing staff, and I have done this throughout my career when I've had the chance to do it. Say, listen, imagine this. You know this brew house better. You know what kind of beer we can make out of it. Use this as your pilot system. If this beer doesn't taste right, we will shit can it. It's not the end of the world. And so
Okay.
we make a beer. We make a series of beers called the Fulton and Wood series here. They're limited release. They go to the 30 best draft accounts in Chicago. They're draft only. And I said when we initiated this project about 2.5 years ago, I said, listen, and if we don't dump any beer, we will have failed. So let's use our system as a pilot system and make some mistakes, fix them, and then deliver a beer that that acknowledges those mistakes and corrects them. So finally, after 2.5 years today, I gave permission to our lead cellarman, a guy named Brian Taylor, a very talented brewer, who is making a Berliner Weiss. It was scheduled to be centrifuged and put into a bright tank tomorrow, and the beer is it's undrinkable, and my wish has finally come true. We get to cellar one of our Fulton and Wood beers, which means that we have stretch goals as brewers, and that we're really doing. We're trying hard, and we're making honest brewing mistakes, and honest brewing mistakes sometimes lead to great beers, but more often than not, they need to be sewered. So this one, we finally got to that place with Fulton and Wood, and I didn't hesitate for a second. I said, sewer this beer. It is not acceptable.
So I mean, it is funny to hear that my wish has been fulfilled. We tossed a beer. I mean, it's definitely not something we normally hear. But given that scenario, I mean, it makes perfect sense because you want that experimentation.
I got to tell you that working at Deschutes as head brewer for 5 years, that was the one thing that that was the mantra of Gary Fish, who owns that brewery. It was, if you don't throw something away, you're not trying hard enough. And I understand that, and I believed it before I met Gary, but hearing it from Gary over and over again, don't be timid about what you're doing. Be bold about what you're doing. So we're about to release a Indian pale ale. It's a pale ale that's made with 5 different Indian spices, and it is a very challenging beer to drink. The aroma is gorgeous. There's a lingering astringency. It is the only thing that I would like to see slightly lessened in the second batch that we made. But that beer is going to be a very challenging beer to drink, and I'm very happy about that. The team that came up with that beer were engaged and excited and are very proud of their creation, and that is, and it wasn't just a bunch of brewers. It was our scheduler. It was one of the great people who work on our accounting staff, and then some brewers thrown in for to sort of run the 3-ring circus. But that beer is I've never tasted anything like it, and I don't think it'll become a year-round beer, but we've learned a lot from making it and had a lot of fun doing it. And that, when you stop having fun, when you stop tasting new things, you might as well sell real estate.
During the interview, I was enjoying their session IPA called Endless IPA. I asked them the history of how this beer came about.
Last year, we made a beer for the Pitchfork Music Festival in Chicago, we didn't intend it to be a beer for Pitchfork. It was an experimental beer that we tried here. The guys from Pitchfork that loved it and said, we want to call this Forcone, which is Italian for pitchfork, and sell it at our festival. It's really a great music festival. It's only a couple blocks from our brewery. We're the official brewery sponsor for it, and
nice.
We had a lot of fun with a couple of rappers, Killer Mike and LP. They came into our brewery and made a beer.
Nice.
Yeah, Killer Mike's only requirement was that it smell like weed. I grew up in Oregon, so I kind of knew what he was after. So,
right.
Anyway, but besides that, that's where we first experimented with a beer like Endless IPA. So it was something that we wanted to do. We wanted it to be suitable for high volume drinking, at a beer festival. And we don't want people to end up in the medical tent. We don't want people to end up in their cars and you know, smashed into telephone poles. We
Sure.
want we want people to have a great time drinking beer in beautiful Chicago weather and have a and listen to great music. And this beer was interesting enough to grab the attention of the concert goers, and we sold we really sold out of this beer. We sold over the 3-day festival. We sold 1,200 kegs of beer at this festival.
Wow.
It wasn't 1,200 kegs of Endless IPA, but a good portion of it was Endless IPA.
Okay.
It was we decimated the Endless IPA. And it was the faucets were open. Glasses were going underneath. I love that. That is for me, that is the sign of people having a good time. And you know, it's an unusual beer. Amarillo hops are an unusual hop. They started off. I've been going to Yakima now for, I think this will be my 19th year. I haven't counted, to select the hops for the breweries where I work at. And when I was first presented with Amarillo hops, they smelled like Lemon Pledge. So, and that happened the first couple of years. And I got, they were being flogged by a Dutch Indonesian ex-brewer named Gerard Lemons, who is a legend in the hop industry for the dislike that the more established brokers had for him. He was hilarious. He was he was a rotund bon vivant with this funny accent, you know, that was half Scottish, half had an Indonesian lilt, and he was just a sweetheart. And but the hops didn't suit any beer that we made. But as time went on, from the third year on, fourth year on, and then on into the present day growing of Amarillo, Amarillo's changed enormously. It's a much more layered hop. There are much more interesting aromas. You wouldn't even, if you tried when you drink Endless IPA, which is all Amarillo. There's a bittering edition, middle kettle edition, an aroma edition in the right before knockout to the whirlpool, and then there's a substantial dry hop edition. He had a real affinity for the hop farmers that he worked with in the past and the specific types of Amarillo hops that went into Endless IPA. It's an unusual beer. Amarillo hops are an unusual hop. You know, I've been going to Yakima now for, I think this will be my 19th year. I haven't counted, to select the hops for the breweries where I work at. And when I was first presented with Amarillo hops, they smelled like Lemon Pledge. So, and that happened the first couple of years. And I got, they were being flogged by a Dutch Indonesian ex-brewer named Gerard Lemons, who is a legend in the hop industry for the dislike that the more established brokers had for him. He was hilarious. He was he was a rotund bon vivant with this funny accent, you know, that was half Scottish, half had an Indonesian lilt, and he was just a sweetheart. And but the hops didn't suit any beer that we made. But as time went on, from the third year on, fourth year on, and then on into the present day growing of Amarillo, Amarillo's changed enormously. It's a much more layered hop. There are much more interesting aromas. When you drink Endless IPA, which is all Amarillo, there's a bittering edition, middle kettle edition, an aroma edition in the right before knockout to the whirlpool, and then there's a substantial dry hop edition. So it's all Amarillo, but it's special Amarillo. It's special Amarillo from Elk Mountain Farms, the farm that Anheuser-Busch owns and is planted mostly with hops for Goose Island. It's between it's between 1,800 and 2,000 acres of hops.
Oh,
and,
wow.
And what has happened at that farm is, A, they're great stewards of the land. B, they have great equipment. And C, they have the general manager who runs the hop place, or runs the hop farm. His name's Ed Atkins. He's worked there for 28 years. So he's got 2 years on me as far as experience with hops. And he's as nice as the day is long, and an incredibly hardworking guy, and has a he's got a green thumb. There's no doubt about it. You have to. And we were talking. I had a conversation with him today. I feel a kinship with Ed, because early on, when Goose was acquired by AB, that hop farm was fairly. I mean, the word for it was moribund. They only had about 300 acres planted with hops. The rest of it was winter wheat, ghastly crops like sorghum, soybeans. When you see trellis up and then you see corn growing underneath it, or winter wheat, just makes your heart stink. But
yeah, it's depressing.
Now the farm is completely planted with hops, and they're looking for more land up there. So there's been a complete turnaround, and we picked a Amarillo hop that nobody else could get. It was early harvest, and we picked it. I always take a trusted friend or two who is not a yes person with me when I go looking for hops, because I have some weaknesses when it comes to hops. One of my weaknesses is that I like Ed Atkins so much that it sometimes clouds my better judgment. But I take this very cantankerous brewer named Keith, and we disagree about a lot of things, but we always come away with consensus. But we both agreed on these early harvest Amarillos, and they're fantastic hops. The thing that makes them different is that the oil level is higher than the hops grown in the Yakima Valley. For the super nerds out there who love hops, there's the one thing that differentiates the hops grown in northern Idaho, the Amarillo hops that are grown in northern Idaho, compared to the hops that are grown in the Yakima Valley, is that they're missing a one compound, and they conjecture that it's because they don't reach as high a temperature in the Idaho Panhandle. The compound's called geraniol acetate, and the description of what that flavor is has been best described as sweaty hippie. And
as what now?
Sweaty hippie.
Okay.
And so I grew up in Eugene, Oregon, right? Land of the sweaty hippie. I was dragged to the Saturday market every Saturday, and saw more deer antler pot pipes than a kid my age should probably see. And I've had a bit of a negative reaction to that kind of thing. And
sure.
But anyway, that doesn't matter to me. But I don't really I don't find that to be a necessary component of Amarillos. I think the best Amarillos are being grown at Elk Mountain Farms, and it's not just because it's an ABI facility. I have definitive proof that I like them better, because when we went to Hop Union to buy the rest of our hops, we asked them to show them to us blind. So we rubbed hops blind, and both Keith and I picked out the hops from Elk Mountain Farm as opposed to the other the hops grown at the Berger-Gamache farm or the real farm. So,
Oh, wow.
the hops that they were, we we immediately picked up the early harvest Elk Mountain Farm hops. They're super hops. The place is magical. You drive out through the mists, and you come upon this. You come upon these thousands and thousands of acres of hops, and they just appear in front of you in the mist. And the first time I went there, I just spent my whole time just sort of gnawing on my knuckle. I was so excited.
It was great listening to him waxing poetic about his job and working with the folks around him. Be sure to check out part 2 very soon. In there, I'll go into all the important questions about being owned by AB InBev and the fun that goes into brewing the craft beer favorite, Bourbon County Brand Stout. Thanks for watching. I'm Andrew Lewandowski, and this has been your Better Beer Authority.
Better Beer Authority. Better Beer Authority.